From sunny Southern California, we bring you Meet Bridget. Bring it on, baby. Today, you will meet Zimmer and Taylor Lamb, co-founders of Juna, a science-backed, plant-powered supplement brand supporting mind, body, mood, and sleep without unnecessary additives or compromises.
Juna CEO Jewel once made a fragile cake for Julia Child. Then she became a cannabis entrepreneur. Then she co-founded Juna because she and her best friend couldn't find what they needed as new moms running on fumes. She's one of those women whose path makes 0 sense on paper, but complete sense in person.
Juna CMO Taylor has spent her career building brands that women actually fall in love with, from Gorjana jewelry to Lenya sleepwear to Cleobella. But her most personal project, co-founding Juna alongside Jewel. Let's get into it. We're so excited to have the co-founders of Juna here today, Taylor Lamb and Jewel Zimmer. Thank you for being here today. This is fun. It's like a party episode.
Yes.
And it's such a treat to have you two are best friends and you work together. And this has been kind of our love story. So I think this will be a really fun episode. We're going to get into each of your stories, starting with your roles right now and then diving into your teen years. So we'll just jump right into it and feel free to be involved in each other's stories and stuff whenever it feels.
All right, buckle
good.
up.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Okay, well, we'll start with you, Jewel. Can you tell us a little bit about, obviously you're CEO and co-founder at Juna. Tell us a little bit about your day-to-day and really the role of a CEO of a startup wellness company.
Well, thank you for having us, first of all. It's a pleasure to be here. The day-to-day is literally hands in everything. I think that is part of a founder role for sure. And it's definitely the role of a CEO. It's making sure that the vision, which always comes from the top, always comes from the founders, is that vision is being communicated and being told and being executed by the team. So it's a little bit over here in marketing, it's a little bit in operations, it's in formulation, it's in financials. And I think the place I spend most of my time, honestly, is almost like from above, a hawk's view, looking down and making sure, for better or for worse, I catch everything, all the things that are going right and all the things that are maybe not going right, and just making sure that I have my eye on absolutely everything and my pulse on everything.
That takes a lot of meticulous energy and organization. Is that what are some of the qualities that you would say lend really, really highly to your role specifically?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is ADHD, because you're thinking about so many things at once, but it's just innately, it's just who I am and how I move through life. So I am organized, but I also have a lot of disorganization, going on inside of my brain, ideas all the time. And then I have to sort of distill down every day in order to be able to execute on them. So, but I think it's just innately my personality.
How your brain works.
I feel like any passionate, a founder CEO specifically, there's usually passion and mission behind what you started and it's your thing, right? So when it comes to your role as a CEO being so varietal, you probably have areas that are your favorite things to work on and then also things that you're I gotta do. How do you balance so that you're spending time appropriately in all areas? Are you structuring that into your week or is it a little bit more organic?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I was a chef in a past life, which I'm sure we'll get into. So I'm very much a creative, and this role is really not creative. And so it does take some structuring and some organization for me to be able to really dig into the work every day. Lots of calendar blocking for sure.
Do you use someone to help with that kind of organization? Tell me about your staff. What does your company look like right now and what did it start with? Who were your first hires?
Well, it started with Taylor and I, honestly. And we've just grown from there as we need. We have support in social media. We have support in email marketing. We have customer service. We have fulfillment. We have somebody who leads our financials, like helps with like a fractional CFO. What else do we have? We have an Amazon ads person. Up until very recently, we had a Meta ads person. We have a lot of people doing very specific jobs,
Mm-hmm.
but we are still the everyday
Like
hustlers,
hands-on.
like
Yeah.
hands-on. And honestly, even every single one of those jobs, we are very much involved in.
Out of curiosity, so you guys got together and co-founded the brand. What was your first hire? Like when you guys started digging in, because you're across the board doing all of the work together, but at what point were you like, okay, this is what we need now to make this work, given that like you're very creative and like we'll get into your background, but like you have like a big background in marketing and like building brands. So where did that come in?
Our first two
Social
hires,
media?
yes, social media and fulfillment,
Wow.
filling orders right away.
Just like the manual.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit. You mentioned your chef background. You also worked in cannabis and a chocolate company. Can you tell
Oh,
us?
you really did your
Yeah.
Yeah, we always
research.
do.
Oh my
Little stocky, little
gosh.
fun. Could you tell us, just a little bit about, your past roles and how they've sort of informed what you're doing right now? And if you really did you have an inner sense that you'd start something or be a CEO of a company at one point? Or did it surprise you, where you kind of ended up based on your relationship and experience?
I feel like those are a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Where should I start?
Yeah.
No, I'm not surprised at all I ended up here. I'm so
Mm.
grateful I ended up here. But when I think about like every single dot that connected me to this point, it doesn't surprise me at all. And I don't think it would surprise anyone I know. But yeah, I mean, so I grew up in a really small town in Canada, in
Mhm.
British Columbia. And growing up, it was like we were on the border of Alberta, Montana, Idaho, and Washington all at once. And so it was heart of the mountains,
Mhm.
very outdoorsy. And I never belonged there. It was like really, really hard for me to grow up there because I never felt any excitement. I never felt any energy there. And when I was 13, my sister and I, she's a year younger than me, we came home from school one day and my parents were like, so guess what? We sold the house. We're moving to Europe tomorrow. I
God.
literally think it was tomorrow
Wow.
until the money runs out. And my sister and we were so upset. Our whole lives were
Yeah.
being taken away from us, right? But the second we touched down, I felt like this cosmopolitan energy that I had never felt before. I saw fashion, I
Yeah.
saw culture, I saw food that I had never experienced. And even though I had never had the words for it before, that feeling of like wanting this energy and like
Yeah.
Mhm.
Taylor will tell you, I talk
It's
about
funny. You
energy
do
like
every
all
time
the
we're
time.
in LA. I hate going to LA, and every time we're there, she's like, "The city's just so alive." I go, "No one calls this the city. It's just LA." And when we're in San Francisco, she's always, "The city's just so alive." I love it.
There is something to like
speed.
that.
Yeah.
I especially get it in like walking cities, like when you get to New York or somewhere in
Yes.
Europe where it's
Yeah.
like you kind of feel like a buzz that, I came from a small town too. And I'm like, and maybe it's growing up in a small town thing, that like desperation almost for that
Mhm.
energy. Cause I had a similar experience like all the way through like high school and then wanting, I'm like, I don't know where I want to go to school. I just want to be in a big city.
Yeah. Like I
There's-
just had that desire,
Yeah.
for this I just always say this energy, this feeling, this, like you said, this buzz.
It's interesting though, because I feel like my grandma used to talk about this all the time, and my dad would like roll his eyes because she'd be like, "Oh, everything here is so gross. Like in Europe, they have cafes on the street and shops." And like as a kid, I'd be like, "I don't really know what you're talking about. Like maybe this is like too much, like my dad's like rolling his eyes." But like there is something to the energy of just like being outside and like not necessarily like, talking to other people, but like everyone's like living and like doing and like the
Yeah.
city's breathing. So I can like totally see you touching down in Europe and being like, this is so different from like being in a small town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even when we were down in San Diego, you said that too. Just like people hustling, like going out to lunch, mingling, meeting with friends, getting coffee.
Yeah.
Like you just see all these people in passing on a mission, going
Yeah.
somewhere, places
Yeah.
to be.
Doing things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious though. It's interesting that, you said that part of the CEO role is kind of being able to have a lot of things going on at once, being organized, but sort of
Mhm.
having this like
Mhm.
fluidity, like where you're literally like stirring multiple pots like a chef, but that even enjoying something like a metropolis setting, like I could see how running a company is sort of like running your own little city, where it's
Mhm.
like
Yeah,
you
for
like the
sure.
energy of a lot going
I
on.
do.
Is that something that so you moved to Europe? Have you always sought out those kind of settings where there's just sort of a buzz and a lot going on?
I have. I crave them. But what's really interesting, and not to get too deep or esoteric and or
Yeah.
Get
spiritual
deep and
We
into
love
it,
it.
esoteric. We want
but
it.
but
Go
like
there.
my human design, I have 352 gene keys, which is
Mm.
almost unheard of. And a 52 gene key means stillness. It
Hmm.
means you're actually, you don't speak to the public.
Mhm.
You just are still, and it's a presence of energy. And so it's really interesting because my rules have always been like in my work, like very public. I always worked for the
Mhm.
best of the best restaurants. And, I had a chocolate company prior to this. And like it's always been a mission and a goal to be the best of the best. I think
Mhm.
because of like part of how I grew up in kitchens and
Mhm.
raised by my parents. But yeah, I'm actually not supposed to be in my human design. It's the exact opposite. I should be still and not craving this buzz. So it's interesting, and I'm going to dive deep into that. But to answer your question, which now was what?
I know. I'm like, I don't know. I've just been following you.
I
I'm
know.
like, I'm like, tell me more about your
Yes, no,
stillness.
I've always yeah, no, I've always craved that buzz, that
Yeah.
Yeah.
that busyness for sure.
Well, we've also heard about your morning routine
Mhm.
and how you sort of mindfully start each day. And I think that that kind of gives a little more context to that stillness. Can you tell us a little bit about like your routines and structures, how you start and close your days?
I totally can, but I just want to say, like, this is not for everyone because it's
Yeah.
going to sound really performative, but it's actually the truth. And it's
Yeah.
actually been this way for quite a while. And I guess maybe that's part of it because I like crave this buzz and this energy as much as I crave this outer world. I'm at my most comfortable when I'm quiet in my inner world.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So I really do, when I wake up in the morning, my kids, my husband will tell you, I will spend as long as I possibly can laying in bed in theta,
Mhm.
which theta is between the conscious and the unconscious, and it's
Mhm.
the portal to manifestation. So it's the most powerful time you can be in your brain. It's when your brain can really move
Mhm.
and change, right? And so when I wake up, I just like, I automatically go into this state of like, how do I want to show up in the world? And I've
Mhm.
also learned through manifestation practices over the years, and I'm sure you've had this experience, you have to be very specific. And so there's a little bit of pressure on it. You can't
Mhm.
just say, I want X, Y, and Z and not say, but I want to be healthy and happy also,
Right.
and everyone around me healthy and happy. So it takes a minute to really think about it and sink in. So I do that in the morning. And then if I have time, which it really does depend, I will journal and meditate, even if it's just for a few minutes. I always have a timer set for an 8-minute meditation. And journaling is something that I actually used to do a lot as a child
Mhm.
to escape. And in the past few years, I've started doing it again. Both my kids actually journal, not because I told them, but because they have watched me do it. And
Mm.
now they see it as part of their practice in the morning, or actually, usually for them before they go to bed at night.
That's really beautiful. And
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's performative at all. I didn't take it that way, especially because you are a CEO of a wellness company that is about, not just stacking one more thing on what you should
Mhm.
do, but like if you're going to add something, it should be science backed. It should be something that's addressing a root cause and the way to start your wellness versus chasing
Yeah.
Mhm.
ailment.
I mean, even as a teenager, we lived by an ashram, and they had a lot of chanting, yoga, meditation, and so I started these practices at a really young age because it felt good, even
Mhm.
before I really even knew what it was doing inside my body, other than making me feel centered. So I guess in a way, it's something that I grew up with, and I've just always made the time for it.
Yeah. I love that. You create like a foundation for yourself. And it makes so much sense when we hear you talk about it because obviously, like your role requires a lot of demand from different places and different strengths from different areas of your life. And it's interesting to hear you talk about like the ADD version of yourself that likes and thrives off of that energy. But I honestly, like it, if you didn't have your morning practice, I feel like you wouldn't be as successful in it. So you've created a routine that really sets you up for that throughout the day.
Yeah, it's the balance.
Yeah.
Even when we travel together, my alarm will go off in the morning and she'll just be like laying floating like this. She sleeps all night like this on her
I love it.
pillow.
I'm honestly going to try this morning practice. I'm just going to have to like turn off the part where it's like, as soon as I wake up, it's like, okay, this is the list of things. I'm just going to have to rewire that to be like, this is what I want to manifest.
You definitely should. And
Yeah.
you can do it at night too. It's harder at night though because you're falling asleep.
Yeah.
You're just
Right. You're
waking
winding
up.
down.
But there is some science behind the last thing you think about before you fall asleep. It's
Yeah.
the first thing that you think about when you wake
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a nice time for like prayer also, honestly, if you want to put something out there for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just like a really sacred time. Everybody should do it.
I love that. I didn't even know what theta state was until we were like researching and like getting
I
into.
feel like that's going to be like Gen Z coded now. I feel like that's prime Gen Z
Yeah.
pick up on this one. They're like, that's so theta coded. I'm sorry, I'm in a theta state. Like, take it, run with it, you guys.
And
It's
look,
fine.
like
Yeah.
it's not, it hasn't always been easy because I had toddlers at
Yeah.
one point
Mhm.
too and little kids. And I still get interrupted all the time, but they
Yeah.
also know better. And they also know that I'm not the same person. If I'm
Yeah.
not able to like be in that
Yeah.
state or be in that meditation, they don't want to be around me. So it's like they understand the importance of it as well.
Yeah.
But even if you're interrupted, whatever it is, just make
You
it a
just keep
practice.
going.
Yeah.
It sounds like you found a lot of tools of sort of like setting up yourself and your day. When it comes to, founding and being the CEO of a company, have there been any mentors or communities that have really helped guide you in terms of setting up a company?
Yeah. Absolutely. I'll ask anyone and everyone who's ever been a founder or a CEO for advice and
Mhm.
not even think twice about it. So before Juna, I actually had a chocolate company. So after I came out of the restaurant world, which I did after I had my oldest daughter, because there was many reasons, but one of the reasons was because it was impossible to sustain a
Mhm.
job where you showed up at 8 a.m. and you got home at midnight.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And I tried leaving her on table 25 and
Yeah.
having the nanny hop in. It doesn't work. It just
Yeah.
it never works. But and I wasn't able to, because it was never my own restaurant. I was never able to just integrate her in.
Right.
So I left and I started a chocolate company. And that I really did on my own. I really didn't, at the time, I think I was so young, I didn't know to ask for help. I just did it, but I got really, really lucky. I launched at Barney's New York nationally. And this was like back in like 2009. So
Yeah.
I got every single contract I ever could have imagined from here to Japan in a second. I mean, it was a different
That's
world,
incredible.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't have social media. We didn't have, so Barney's was it for me. It helped me land everything. And so I felt like the business was somewhat easy. And also founder culture didn't really exist
Yeah.
then in the way that it does now. But when we started Juna, it was very much that was founder culture, and I was in San Francisco. And so I started looking at it from a very different perspective. And I started talking to investors immediately. And they would say, you have to talk to this CEO, you have to meet this person, and they're going to tell you how to do this and how to form this and shape this. And that's just also like that was also the nature of the city and probably the culture at the time. It was just
Really
really collaborative and connecting everyone together to see what would come out of it, how it would all unfold. And I've really relied on every single
Just like all the nuggets.
yeah, everything I've learned from everyone and every single intro. Taylor and I will never turn down a call, even if it sounds like it's way off in the other direction, there's always a reason for it.
Mhm.
And we always learn just as much from the call as the person on the other side. So it's kind of a beautiful thing, really.
Yeah, I like that practice a lot.
Would you say what is like your favorite quality that you've seen in CEOs that you admire?
Calm leadership. I think in order to like really lead a company, you have to be the one to hold everything and help every single person in the company find their voice and their strengths so that they can feel successful.
I love it. Well, Taylor, let's jump into your role a little bit. You have a
Right.
really diverse marketing background. You've worked for a lot of companies that so many of us, specifically women, know and love. Cleo Bella, Lunya,
Gorgiana.
Coriana, which is a great local company down here. Tell us a little bit about your role as CMO. From a marketing perspective, what are the most important qualities that you have?
Yeah, I think, how I look at marketing, it's less about selling something and it's more about being able to, it's almost like psychology, like really tap into what makes someone feel a certain way and how do women feel. And my background primarily has been with these brands that you know, are really dedicated towards women. And I've always gravitated towards ones that I personally really loved. And so it makes it that much easier to educate and storytell and communicate when it's something that I would want to see myself. And so for marketing, I always try to tap into that. What would I personally want to see? What would resonate with me? And I think we talk about that so much with Juna too, because we are the customer. So it's what do we personally need? What would I stop scrolling on
Yeah.
Instagram for? So I think it really is, there's this psychology behind marketing that I think is not talked about enough and tapped into enough. And if you can make someone feel an emotion, whether it's even just feeling seen or getting them to laugh or feel sad or emotion or connected or any of those things vulnerable, that's when it's memorable. So I think that's a big part of it. I think, my background, even with Lunya, when we first launched, it was we just had fun with the copy. It's like good in bed or, everything was sleep related, but we tried to be cheeky with it. And at Juna too, we always lead with this voice that's witty, but educational, smart. And so it's like who you would want to speak to you, who do you want to hang out with, or call your girlfriend that you want to get advice from.
I'd love to hear a little bit about your day to day and how it differs because I imagine both of you work really closely together and are in constant communication. But
We
clearly,
work this closely together.
But I imagine that you guys have to have very complementary skills. So
Yeah.
your day to day probably looks completely different. Like, can you walk us through it?
Yeah, like Joel said, we both wear many hats. And even though we've had Juna for 7 years now, we are very much still in the grind, in the hustle. And I think one thing that we always are doing is it's executing the day to day while still planning the future. And sometimes, events or launches will start having to be planned 4, 5, 6 months out. But you also have to make sure you're executing on everything that needs to go live that day. So for me, I do oversee, the branding, marketing, social, email, advertising, events, partnerships. And so there's a lot of moving parts at all times, a lot of communication. And, we have our systems in place that I've sort of developed over the years from just what works and hasn't worked through my career. And so it's been nice to take what has worked through the decade I was in fashion and marketing and bring it to our startup And so we had a good jumping off point in terms of how to structure
Mhm.
marketing and our calendar, our goals. So it is very organized. We have, our monthly marketing strategy where we'll fill out everything, fill out our calendar,
Mhm.
but then the day to day is making sure it all
Runs.
Yeah, comes
And it could be
together.
anything.
yeah, that goes live,
Yeah.
that it looks right, that the copy's there. I still read every single and approve every line of copy and every
Mhm.
email. We're both very active still on our own brand Instagram. I'm on our TikTok
Mhm.
every day. We both are reading the messages all the time. So we are very much involved with every aspect of it. And I think it's important. That's how
Yeah.
we truly stay so tapped in.
I really believe that you're like not just saying this too, because it's funny how the universe works. Before we met, and I think I told you this, before we met at our event in December, I was at a body sculpting studio and she had the detox drops. And this is like up in the valley, like where closer to where I live. And I was like, oh my gosh, the founders of Juna are coming to this event that we're doing tomorrow. And she's like, it's so great. When I call and I place my orders, I'm pretty sure I'm talking to one of the founders.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that it makes a big difference when you're
does.
willing to like put in the work from the ground up. And I can see that integrity shine through in the products and even in the marketing, the way that you talk about like the psychology behind it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think we live in a world of information overload,
Mhm.
and there's so much coming at us, at all of us, at every minute. And so it's really important to try to be something different or
Mhm.
better. I feel like we have higher standards with everything we do and everything we put out there, whether it's an Instagram post or our products or an ingredient or an email. And we really do pride ourselves in taking the time to be intentional.
Mhm.
The last thing I would want to do is sign up for someone's email list and then get spammed with 100 emails. So we
Yeah.
don't
Yes.
do that to
Yeah.
people. We
Yeah.
we don't just slam
Mhm.
them with buy 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 and here's a
Yeah.
coupon code if you don't buy in the next 5 seconds. That's stressful. No one
Yeah.
wants that. It's like what's happening right now. A lot of people are interested or talking about peptides. Like
Mhm.
then we want to dive into that, understand that more, help
Mhm.
educate our customer on maybe what we have questions about and dive in deeper to that. So we had
Yeah.
an email go out today and social post about that and like how to pair it with the right Juna product and
Mhm.
really be go above and beyond to offer our customers and our followers what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Taylor said something really early on after we launched. She said, our customers are our investor.
Well, I said
Mm.
And
we as a brand, we have one boss.
yeah,
And it's
Yeah.
the
it's the
customer
customer.
because
Yeah.
and at any point they can fire us all.
Yeah.
Because if we don't have a happy customer, if we don't have them, we have nothing. So really we do everything we can to make that a great experience for the customer.
Yeah,
That's brilliant.
we do have people working with us, but
Mhm.
we are still like deep in the reviews and
Mhm.
even in customer service. I mean, we have somebody that does customer service, but we're still in there because we're trying to understand the customer as best
Yeah.
as we
Yeah.
can because the more we can understand the customer, the better we can serve them in every way, shape, and
Mhm.
form. And if the goal is to help as many women feel their best as we possibly can, then we have to know these women like they're part part of our tribe,
Yeah.
part of our world.
Yeah, I read a book too early on when I was in fashion, and we had some great practices back at Lunia. We would have a monthly book club where the whole team would all read a book together, and then we'd sync up on it and share thoughts. And I read some of the best, most informative books during that period: business books, creative books, and there's a few, some that we even have at our office now, but I remember one that stood out and it was, how to create like a brand or product that really sticks.
Mhm.
And there were a few things that are super important. One, that it can easily integrate into somebody's everyday routine.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, okay, never start, a wedding dress company.
Right.
Don't launch, e-bike company. Who knows, something where it's so hard to acquire that purchase
Mhm.
that if
Right.
you only get one time to speak to them, then that's hard to create a sustainable business model. So I was like, okay, toothpaste, like supplements, things that
Mhm.
really,
Our
people
day to
use
day.
every
Yeah.
day.
Right.
And then another one, also too, so then it could be like become part of their routine, part of their habits, subscription. And I think another thing that was always so important to me is there was a quote, and if you want to make $1 million, then you have to solve 1 million people's problems.
Mm.
And so that always stood out to me too, is like, how can we solve a problem? What problems do people have? And then how can we easily integrate into their
Mhm.
everyday routine? And so that was always spinning in the back of my head. And I think even through fashion, it's, unfortunately gotten to a place where it's so like you can't feed the beast. Like where
Yeah.
everyone's, with Instagram
Yeah.
and social media and photos, like we wear something, we take a picture, it's out there, and then it's like for every event and everything, you feel like you have to get a new
Yeah.
outfit. And so it's forcing fashion brands to be launching so
Mhm.
much newness every single day, every month, 30 new SKUs, 30 new SKUs, and
Right.
it's pumping it out.
Mhm.
And, I think that's really another thing that gets hard on brands is when you can't keep marketing and selling the
Mhm.
same thing and stick to that message. Again, with the information overload at Juna, it's so nice. We have such a small product curation with
Mhm.
5 SKUs that we can really go in deep and talk about the nitty gritty and
Yeah.
tell the story and the messaging and go into each ingredient and the science behind each one. Whereas, if you're launching new products every month, it's really hard to
Mhm.
educate at that level.
It's so intentional the way that you talk about it, which is phenomenal. I'd love to hear a little bit more about the qualities that are very specific to your role that make you successful in this particular lane. And I also like, and this can come after, but I think we should also dive into like, given that you've had such a breadth of experience amongst different industries, if you will, with the marketing piece, you actually went back and did a little extra schooling before you guys started Juna in like the wellness and supplement space. And so I would love to hear about the skills that you have innately and like what you had to hone to become the CMO.
Yeah, I was definitely born creative.
Mhm.
I, at an early age, colored, drew, was always drawing clothes and coming up with brands and, making messes. Jules' youngest daughter is so much like how I was at an early age, always making things out of, crafts. And I remember like we had VHS tape boxes and I'd make them into purses
Oh, I
and,
love
try to sell them. And
that.
made my bedroom into a spa for my family and would do like facial, anything
So
to
cute.
like make
Yeah.
makes
Yeah.
like my little businesses. And then was always drawing, always painting, always in art camps, art schools. And so that definitely, that creative piece has always been in me.
Mhm.
And then I was good at technology too, as it's
Yeah,
from
that's a
we're
big
aging
piece
us.
for marketing now. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
But then when I was in high school, I was like, okay, I'm going to go to college. What should my major be?
Mhm.
And we don't know anything at that age,
Yeah.
really. But I'm like, I'm good at computers and, I'm creative. So I guess I'll major in graphic design. And I ended up going to San Diego State. I majored in graphic design.
Mhm.
I loved it. Although it was like no one even at that point really fully understood and knew
Yeah.
what it was. But it ended up being such a great skill. So I majored in graphic design, minored in marketing, but the skills I learned from that have helped me creatively down the road too, because I'll get a vision in my head or want to do something and I can actually create it myself
Yeah.
versus having to communicate it to someone and them do it. It's in my head and I can create it myself. So I think that's been an extremely powerful asset through the years. After college, I did web design, and that skill also became very, very useful for me, and understanding the user experience and UX and, how people navigate online. So that was very helpful. And so I think those things in particular have through the years been really beneficial. I mean, we've even saved money quite a bit. Like all the postcard in college, I actually had a business. What was it called? I forget. But I designed all the flyers for all the nightclubs.
Yeah.
And like that. And then in college and for my sorority, I designed all the t-shirts and partnered up with my buddy Travis, who had a screen printing company. So I would do like all the merch for all the sorority shirts and bags and everything. And so it was definitely a handy skill. Now it's going to get taken over with AI.
No. You guys are very intentional about things. I have faith that like people like you who create companies with like the intention of creating something really, really great, not just for like the 30 SKUs every month, like you said, and you base it around education and like research, but also what people want. Like, I think the pendulum is going to swing back. Like, AI will be there, but people will want and crave real things.
Oh, I talk about that all the time when we look at food, in particular, how in the past, like it became about faster, more convenient, cheaper, fast food and, TV dinners, processed, everything faster, cheaper, quicker. And then we saw this huge shift because we're like, oh, this is garbage.
Killing
and
us.
Everyone started
killing us.
and then we all started craving farm to table and getting back to growing real food and eating real food. And so I hope that happens. I mean, I hope it happens with fashion where we slow down a bit with our consumption. And I hope it happens, with technology too. I think we're all too consumed with it. And I hope that we start waking up a little bit more and being like, okay, unplug and get back in nature more and turn off the screens.
Yeah.
Well, I find it really interesting. You guys have mentioned that part of the impetus for the company was that postpartum experience and just not finding what you needed during that time. I think that like one might look at the supplement business and be like, this is a beast. There's so many supplements out there. It's unregulated. Like, why do I need one more thing, here and there? But to rethink, an industry that's obviously pretty saturated already, but say like, what do you actually need? Or what are the root problems in this specific stage of life for women? And then coming from that place, can you tell us a little bit about that, like the start of the company and the big why that drove you to make it into something together?
Yeah. I mean, Jewel and I both have very different wellness journeys. Hers revolved around her postpartum experience. And I actually had my babies while we started Juna in the past, 6 years. So, but my wellness journey, what led me, to where we then met and had very shared values on it all. I had extremely terrible digestion. My early 20s, I was living in downtown San Diego. I had my web design job on during the week, but I made no money. It was right out of college. I think it was 2008. 9. It was during that crash when no one could get jobs. And I was like, okay, I got my web design job making peanuts. But then I also did bottle service on the weekends because I had to make money somehow. And so I'd work Monday through Friday doing web design. Friday, I'd go home, change, and go to the nightclub and do bottle service until 4 a.m.
I'd flyers.
make more in one night than I would working the whole week at my desk job. But it led me to have terrible digestion because I didn't have a great diet. I was always on the go. And so I didn't have healthy elimination. And since I didn't have healthy elimination, I was bloated. It was showing up as severe acne. I always struggled with acne when I was younger, high school and college, but in my early 20s, when you feel like it should be kind of tailoring off, it was terrible. And then I was gaining weight and it was causing me to be depressed because of, I just didn't feel good. I didn't feel like myself.
Yeah.
I couldn't poop. It was awful.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not just like a one day situation. It
Yeah.
was like 3 years of just awful. And went to, not only was I spending thousands and thousands at every dermatologist on the topicals and the lasers
Yeah.
and these treatments that would be so painful, but also not do anything for my skin and all the expensive topicals. But I was spending all this money too on trying to figure out what was going on with my gut. And I'd go to, all these specialists and they just kept writing prescriptions and different prescriptions. And even, for my acne prescriptions,
Yeah.
for my gut prescriptions and Miralax, and no one was trying to get to the root cause. Not one person asked me about my diet. Not one person asked me about my routine or what my day-to-day looked like. And once I did my own research and got to the root cause of my gut issues and started to incorporate digestive enzymes and plants in a different way into my diet, I started pooping again.
Yeah.
And I, healed my gut, which then my acne went away. My bloat went away. My energy levels were back. I wasn't depressed anymore because I wasn't bloated with acne all over my face anymore. And so I, at that point, really, really understood the power of plants. And I think that was so eye-opening to me. I remember at the time I got my roommate taking them. I told everyone I possibly could, anyone that had a zit on their face. This was like, didn't have the
You're
acne
like, I'm the
patches.
poster child.
Yeah, we didn't have those little stickers that everyone wears on their
Yeah,
zits now that like make them go away in 20 minutes. But I just told everyone. And so when Jewel and I met and, she was telling me about her wellness journey and how she healed her postpartum through amino acids, and I healed, my gut through these plants. It was like the light bulb went off that there is such a missed opportunity right now because so many supplements are made with synthetics, and also so many people are frustrated with the current healthcare system because you are not only, you feel unheard, but no one's getting to the root cause. No one's asking you about your diet. And so we really have to be our own advocates. And if we want to, feel our best, we have to get to the root cause of why we're not there. Why do we not feel our best? What is our body trying to tell us?
Yeah.
And most skin issues or sleep issues or things like that actually do stem back to your gut. It's where the majority of your serotonin, your dopamine, your immunity all resides in your gut. And so we always say if you should start there. Even Hippocrates said 2,500 years ago that all disease begins in the gut, and now more research
Now we
is
have the
coming
science.
out. Yeah, now we have the
Yeah.
science to prove
Yeah.
it. And so once we connected and we're like, okay, we got to start with the gut. That's where everything stems back there, and it has to be around the power of plants, because pharmaceuticals, what they do are they block receptors in our bodies so we stop feeling, and it's not promoting true healing in our body. And what plants do is it promotes true healing. Your body can take what it needs. It recognizes it. It's nature. Mother Nature knows best. And so by putting those in your body, getting to the root cause and healing what needs to heal, we can all feel our best. Like everyone's walking around with tummy issues and sleep issues and just with our modern diet and what we're exposed to on a daily basis, it's not natural.
Yeah.
Well, plants actually open receptors in the body and they
Mhm.
help calibrate the rest of the system because they carry a certain vibration or frequency,
Yeah.
right? And a synthetic can't carry frequency.
Right.
So the way in which it works in the body is 100-fold because
Yeah.
you're not just getting that one chemical compound. You're getting, by taking a plant, you're getting thousands
It's
just in one plant.
it's
And
so
it's
interesting
adaptogenic,
too.
so your
Yeah.
body can take the level it needs.
Yeah. It's well, if you think about it, it's completely logical, like from an evolutionary point of view
Yeah.
too, because it's like what first of all, what you're describing, like distilling things down to the foundational totally reminds me of Jules' morning routine. It's like you can't start your day unless you're like in the zone that you've created for yourself to be successful. So similarly, your products are like the very distilled down versions of real things that can cut straight to the root cause, which I think is really cool. But yeah, like from an evolutionary standpoint, it's like the food you eat, like that's what fuels your body. We need sleep, we need water, we need food. So
Yeah.
obviously, like it makes sense that like you start with the gut.
Yeah.
So is that why you went back? Because you did go back for extra training
I
when you had
did.
started, right?
I went to Cornell to study medicinal plants,
Okay.
and that was twofold. Yes, because I'm extremely passionate about plants and their medicinal properties, and I firmly believe there's a cure for cancer in
Mhm.
plants and everything,
Yeah.
and we just haven't tapped into it, or maybe it just hasn't been shared. But it was that, and then also marketing, because it's so important that we both are so educated on the topic and fully understand
Mhm.
what we are creating, and absolutely can educate and share that with our consumer. So with Juna, with everything we do, we ourselves become experts on that
Yeah.
topic,
Yeah.
whether it's sleep or gut health or brain health. Jewel became a certified brain health coach at Amen Clinics, or metabolism. I mean, we really throw ourselves into it to become the experts so that we can give our customer the best product, but also distill that
Right.
information and break it up so that they can easily absorb
Yeah.
it in a fun way, or through our Instagram or
Yeah.
an email, and really share that knowledge with them.
I love that.
I'd love to dive back into, we've touched a little bit on like where both of you came from and
Mhm.
where you started, but we'd love to really dive into your teen stories. Obviously, I see a lot of commonalities between the two of you. You both are really interested in the why and the root cause and understanding the education that you need to run your company. Can you each sort of give us if you had to describe yourself walking in your high school hallways, how would you describe yourself? We'll start with you, Joel.
Oh,
Set the
I mean,
stage.
like I was just simple. I was
Mm,
just simple and normal. Honestly, I was so uncomfortable where I was, which I
Mhm.
kind of touched on
yeah.
earlier. I never felt like I was ever in a place where I could truly be myself, and knowing that, not really being able to put words to it until I had gone to Europe, and then coming back from
Mhm.
that and having to, go to high school for the next 3 years was torture,
Yeah.
honestly.
Mhm.
And I had a lot of friends. I mean, I still have my friends from high school. It wasn't that I was alone, but I was completely disengaged. In fact, I was so unhappy. I ended up moving out on my own right on my 16th birthday,
Oh,
which
wow.
was very unheard of. I had to have this independence. And
Mm,
I was also, I talk a lot about the energy that I need all the time, but
Mhm.
I did need like to also get away from the noise that was around me because it wasn't aligned for me.
mm,
Yeah.
And I actually never moved. I never moved back home after. And so, yeah, I don't know. It was a time, I guess, it was so formative because I knew exactly what it was that I didn't want. And I
mm,
knew exactly how I didn't want to live. And I just had to get through it
Mhm.
until I could go find what it was that I was more aligned with and
Yeah.
find that energy that I was drawn to.
How did that look externally? Because you describe a lot of like your experience with the different energies or like the misalignment that you felt as a young teen. How did that how did that show up like when you were in high school or like interacting with your friends or your parents? Were you like very outgoing or were you more subdued and quiet? Like what did that look like?
I mean, honestly, if I can like really look back on it, it probably looked, I mean, I'm just going to be honest.
Please do.
Mhm.
It probably looked pretentious.
Mm.
Like I really just I could sit in a room and be like, I know I don't like you. I know I don't like you.
Yeah.
It was just like, it was hard for me to be in
Yeah.
those rooms. And actually, I ended up moving to Vancouver for school, then Ottawa,
Mhm.
and then to San Francisco right away, which is where I spent the majority of my life. And yeah, I couldn't get out. I literally like could not get out fast enough. I just knew I was in a place that was not where I belonged. And I think that my energy spoke that
Yeah.
all the time.
I think you touch on a really important point, and I think a lot of people can probably relate to the frustration, right? Like a lot of times, especially in our younger years, life shows us what we don't want, right?
Mhm.
It's not, we're blessed if we have an experience when we're young where it's like, that's my thing, like this gets me, or that's what I want to do. But more often than not, that we get many more experiences that are like, "Oh, that's not right," or like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's not right." And I mean, it can be in school, it can be in dating, it can be in your career, it can be in your family, but taking the no's, and I think it can feel a little clunky as a young person, like,
Mhm.
yeah, definitely know what I don't want, but realizing that that experience is moving you closer to an understanding of what you do want, even if it's not formed in your mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was confusing because there was nothing wrong with anyone that I was
Right.
around. And like I said, it's not like I was alone. Like, it's
Yeah.
not like I didn't have friends.
It's just
I
too
did
small for
have
you.
Yeah.
Too small for
friends.
you.
But I'm like, Taylor will even tell you, like, tell, tell me something amazing you've done. Or like, I don't care if it's what you ate this morning, the kind of water you drink, like, tell it to me like you feel it. And I'm like all in.
Yeah.
You have 100% of my attention. Otherwise you don't. And I don't like I'm not saying that that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's just I really feed off of energy. When I was maybe like 4 years old, I had a very, very vivid dream.
Mm.
I don't even know if I've ever told you this.
Share it. Let's go.
But I was being chased around a lake by my house by this dog. And this dog had this very specific smell. And in that dream, I knew that if I encountered that smell, I was in the wrong place. And growing up, I encountered it all the time. So it was very confusing to me.
Wild.
I don't like, it was almost like I had to be on the defensive. Like I had to be up here always looking down. Like there was something that I was always very guarded about.
Mhm.
But then I would find myself in different experiences like traveler in different
Yeah.
cities or around different people. And I wouldn't have that. And it's very rare now for me to encounter that smell. It happens every now and then. And I think I probably shared it with you a few times. Like if it happens, I'm like, gotta go.
I'm out.
Yes.
But
That's so
yeah,
interesting.
so I don't know. It was just it was probably the most formative time in my life because I knew exactly what I could not engage in and what I could not interact in. But it was very uncomfortable. And I think that showed too. I think that
Yeah.
awkwardness really showed like that I was like very, very visibly uncomfortable in my life. And for years, I didn't even go back and visit my parents because I didn't want to ever go back and feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did your
And they're
parents
amazing also.
Oh, I was
by
gonna
the way.
How did they did you tell them what was going on
Yeah.
internally?
How did
and
that
your
conversation
sibling?
go?
I don't think anyone ever really got it until like we moved to Europe that first time. We were gone a year. And
You
then
probably didn't even know how to
Yeah.
I
understand
didn't.
it. Yeah.
But I think when we came back, it was more obvious that I was like went back into because I was a very difficult child. I
Mhm.
had a lot of behavioral problems. I didn't want to listen. I mean, most kids
Yeah.
kids are kids. I mean, that's how we learn
Yeah.
to move through the world. But I was very difficult compared to the other kids around me, my sister, my cousins. And it was really hard for my parents to understand. So I think once we got out, they started to see, oh, wait, she's a different person. This is interesting. And then coming back, seeing me fall back into that. So when I finally, found my world, I think they were just really happy.
Yeah.
Because she's okay.
Well, Dr. Becky says all kids are good kids. So
Yeah.
it was just a matter of finding the energy that you needed to be around.
Yeah, and I think about that a lot.
I was kind of a bad kid.
with
I
my
don't-
I
kids.
can't wait to hear.
Yeah, like with my kids and with other people's kids, I think about that a lot. Like, it's because it's not a right situation for them. It's not
Totally.
they haven't done because they've done something wrong. It's just not the place for them.
Or like for whatever
The
reason, they
conversation or
haven't
the
formed the
person.
skill that they need to cope in that
Yes.
setting, right?
Yeah,
So
You don't have the language for it yet.
yeah.
exactly.
Did your sister stay when you moved out? How did that relationship form you, if at all, when you were younger?
With my sister,
Mhm.
I think she's really tried to understand me over the years, but
Yeah.
I don't think she really does.
Mm,
And I think that's hard
yeah.
because we have been very close and also not close over the years because it's hard for her to understand why I was never satisfied.
I think especially when sisters are close together in age, and it's funny because we were talking before we started rolling about like karma coming back to us and our own children. I have a sister who's about 2 years older than me, and when I found out I was having another girl, I have 2 girls close in age. I think I cried because I was like,
Like, oh, no.
"Oh, this is gonna be hard." Like we were best friends, but they're
Mhm.
like, my therapist probably thinks the majority of my issues stem from that relationship.
Oh my
God bless. I love you, Archie.
Um,
But it can be
Yeah.
it can be a really like lucrative isn't the word, but it can be a fruitful relationship having a sibling that close and especially in the same gender as you, but it can also be really difficult because the outside world can't help but compare you and wonder how you could possibly be different from each other when you are, so close genetically.
Yeah. Yeah, are you the oldest sister?
I'm younger.
You're the younger sister.
I'm a middle child.
Okay. So I think being the oldest can be really challenging as well because there's a different level of responsibility on you to
Yes.
understand your parents.
Yes.
And my mom she is also clinically depressed. So I grew up with her being very depressed all the time. And one of the earliest memories I had of her depression was actually right after she had my sister. We're 18 months apart. So I was maybe about 2, like young, like
Yeah.
how I remember, right? Who knows? But it was part of that process of when my oldest was born and she was 2, I started having these like rushing memories coming
Yeah.
back. And I think there's a lot of unspoken resentment to my sister, like energetically, because she never had to face a lot of the stuff that I had to face with my mom
Yeah.
because I was always protecting her
Yeah.
until I left, until I
Yes.
was like, I can't anymore.
Right.
And honestly, like my mom, she was born in the 50s, so she was diagnosed at a very young age with clinical depression and put on some really hardcore drugs. And then getting into like the 90s and the early 2000s, all these new pharmaceuticals started coming out, right? And they would change her medication all the time. And every time they changed the medication, it would be disastrous. And it was very hard to deal with.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think like sisters take on different responsibilities in families, and that that definitely causes friction and
Yeah,
tension.
right.
Yeah. Well, you guys seem to function like sisters.
I know, it's almost like chosen sisters.
Sisters, wives.
sisters.
I want to get a little bit into
Yeah.
what do you mean by bad kid? Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about you. I'm like, let's go. There's a story there.
I also have a sister.
Mm.
She's 4.5 years older than me, and a tough act to follow. She was star athlete, tennis player, straight A student, always very well behaved. And I think growing up, from an early age, a lot of my childhood revolved around my sister and her sports. And, we'd always be traveling for her sports, and, a lot, revolved around her being in the spotlight. And I think that was partially what led me to lean into my creativity too, because I knew that I had to create my own thing, my own identity, even though I did end up playing tennis and, was athletic and whatnot. I just felt like I, when I was younger, I was always trying to be different, a little bit of a contrarian. And, which I was blonde and lived in San Diego and tan. And I think I was always, people were always trying to push me into a certain category or bracket, and I did everything I possibly could to rebel from that, to not be that, what people's perception of me should be, or what they thought the stereotype should be. I did everything in my power to not be that. And which caused a lot of tension at home. I was quite rebellious.
See you smiling.
I'm like this. I can't relate to anything you're saying.
I grew up quick. I didn't want rules. I couldn't be controlled. I did my own thing. I in high school dyed my hair every single color: black, blue, purple, pink, red. I had plugs. I unenrolled myself the private Catholic school I was going to. And so I then started at public school, which my mom was just like in tears over. My sister was like, valedictorian of the private Catholic school.
The uniform and
and I was just like, not any of it. My mom would try so hard to, like, every birthday or Christmas, she'd buy me all these Gap clothes, and I was just shopping at Hot Topic with my spiked socks and I remember I was like 16, trying to get a tattoo.
I was so hoping that you were going to be like, I had an emo phase.
I had the most emo phase. I dated guys in bands.
Yes.
I ditched school all the time.
I love it, those stupid studded belts.
Studded belts.
That was me for like a solid 2 years.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So yeah, I was very rebellious with it, and definitely had my emo phase. And it's interesting. I felt like at an early age, I kind of figured out how to work the system in a way. Where I'd get the security guard a burrito, and I'd ditch school, and I'd be then all of a sudden my mom, how are you here? Why is no one why are you at home? How'd no one call me? And I'd be like, and I always got really good.
Find the need and address it.
Yeah,
right thing.
There's something so industrious about that. Though. I mean, you think about these behaviors as a teen, and as a parent now, I'd be like, oh my gosh, what is behind this, or that's a naughty behavior.
Yeah.
But look at where it's gotten you.
It's super interesting because you're talking about kind of a different hair color and experimenting with this style and wanting to go to a different school, and all that is very translatable, honestly, for brand building. And being able to build multiple different brands in your career, and trying on okay, who is this person we're serving? Who is this brand that we're creating? What's our brand voice? And having that kind of experimental tendency. And similarly to you, where it's being able to know, have that calm leadership, but it's okay, if a setting or a situation isn't working, being able to change it and be calm about it and know your center. They're very much things that are aligned in the roles that you're in.
Yeah. I definitely didn't want to fit into the standard mold. And I feel like that's something that, I'm wearing silver pants today, so
they're so good.
I'm still trying to not fit into something, as I'm a mom of 2 living in Orange County.
Yes.
But I don't know what really caused it. I think, but it was something that now I look back at and can laugh about. Every single report card, I was in, detention every weekend. Every report card, she's a distraction to herself and others. She can't stop talking. She's always up and walking around. And, now I'm, I laugh because it's on my kids' report cards all the time. They can't be very social and talkative. And a distraction to themselves and others. But so it's funny to see, we were talking about that in the beginning of like how we recognize these certain things in our children's behavior that we went through and karma coming back around. But, it did end up getting me into some trouble in high school. But again, I felt like I figured out how to work the system, that I never quite got caught with a lot of things. And I always was able to maintain really great grades, not always the ethical way of getting them, but
I think it's interesting because like I listened to myself speak, I'm listening to you, and the common denominator is really this like desire for true authenticity and to not be part of any box.
Right.
And one of the things that like drew me to Taylor so much, and I don't actually know what you saw in me.
Oh my God, look at this love story unfolding.
You've never really said, honestly, you've never really said, but this was like spot on from day one. It's like, and you know this about me now through this conversation, like I look for people who are going to rise to a certain energy, And so I can't build something with somebody who believes that there's a box.
Right.
Like it has to be constantly iterative and so authentic that it's like it doesn't even feel possible.
Yes.
And she was the first person, like outside of the kitchen, because I feel like when you're working with other chefs, that's a very common mindset. It's like working with founders because everyone's building and their creativity is on fire and
have
like
like a
ideas
different role.
and you have to find a way at the end of the day to come together on one plate or in one perfect orchestra, right? Within this restaurant. But like Taylor was the first person, honestly, who I was like, oh, this is the first person outside of the restaurant industry I've ever met that is like willing to go for it. Like no box, no boundaries. Like, let's just do it.
I love that.
What would you say for each of you? What was something you really struggled with as a teenager, and what do you think kind of got you through those years?
Well, early on, all the teachers were telling my parents, "You got to get this kid tested." And this is before everyone was on. Everyone had ADHD, so they were like, "There's something extra with her." So they put me through this crazy testing. My parents never even took me to the doctor when I was younger, so for them to do that was big. And so I definitely had. I remember I got diagnosed. It was ADHD, is attention deficit hyperactive disorder plus inattentive disorder, something, a lot of letters.
Yeah.
And so that was really hard for me at an early age. And because I was always in class, but I was always drawing and doodling and not present and distracted. And I remember when I got tested, the guy sat down with my parents or doctor, guy, I don't know. And he said, most CEOs, most entrepreneurs and business owners actually have this. She'll be fine. I'm not worried about her. She'll be fine later in life. But, in middle school, high school, it might be harder.
Yeah.
And it was until high school when I started to have a little more choice around my classes. It was actually once I went to public school, I had more options to customize my curriculum, and I got to choose some art classes and things that I was interested in, and got a little better. And then when I went to college, and got to pick my major and my classes, and I was actually passionate about what I was doing, going back to alignment, I was like, I don't have the ADD or it just wasn't interesting, And I think, that's kind of that's maybe wrong with the school system or education in general is, we're forcing these kids to fit into these molds or to learn.
Well, again, the box.
Yeah.
Right, or having to label a child based on how well they conform to a system, like a bell curve, really, and it's like, well, if the kid can't conform to them, then they have a disorder called this, and it's like, well, why aren't we questioning the bell curve in the first place? Or like, does that change? Or
I was just more of
we
a
have different kinds of
creative
brains?
kid. And once I started learning and choosing my classes and was passionate about it, I could sit there for 3 days straight and work on something and not get distracted. And even now it's my superpower,
Mhm.
being able to multitask and do a bunch of different things. And if you saw either of our computer screens, you'd die with all the tabs we have open, but it's organized
Yep.
chaos, and
Yeah.
that's how our brains work. But I think that was definitely hard for me early on. And then I would also say, um, yeah, just like in high school, there was, I think, a hard time with, again, not wanting to fit in, but also, you know, hormonal shifts as I was getting older. I mean, the hormones
Yeah.
from your teens into early college. I mean, there were some, I was crazy. Like, they're
Relate.
certifiable. And it's funny because people meet me now, or even, my husband and close friends. It's like, I'm the even one. Like,
Yeah.
I'm very calm, cool, collected. Like, I don't have these
Yeah.
big highs and lows. Like, I'm very calm. But back then, definitely not the case. And I think that was really difficult for most young women to understand. And just, it's how I think about it now too, because when I see my daughter melting down over something
Mhm.
so silly, like not getting to choose the book, I now know that is the biggest thing that's happened
Mhm.
to her.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's, something that's so little to us
Yeah.
is a really big deal, because that's
Mhm.
all the life she's experienced are these
Yeah.
5 or 6 years,
Mhm.
And so looking back on it now, like, things don't ruffle my feathers because I've been
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
I've been through some shit,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, if you don't have like if you're not dying, or there's a fire and something crazy happening, like, there's a solution to the
Yeah.
problem.
Right.
And so I just go into problem solving mode, whereas back then it's the worst thing that's ever happened to you and you think it's the end of the
Yeah.
world. All those little things start adding up, and they build your resilience so that you can get through things later in life. So now things, happen. It's like, oh, okay. It's like some crazy stuff, and it's like, well, we'll get through it. Like,
Yeah.
let's start solving the problem.
I can totally see the calmness in both of you. And so it's really cool to hear the backstory behind like the crazy or the naughty, bad kid, bad teen trope. What was there something exactly that helped you really create that self-regulation, like, because you describe a period of emotional lability, which I think a lot of us can relate to as teens, like not really understanding what tools or resources you have to just kind of like down regulate your emotions and like feel safe again in your own body. Like, what was the piece between those teen years and then like Taylor now, he's like sitting here so calm and cool and like, I've been through it, but it doesn't ruffle me.
Yeah, I think two main things. I think girlfriends,
Mhm.
really good girlfriends, is a big part of it. I think friendships have gotten me through some of the hardest times, and having, like, that's my therapy.
Mhm.
I don't go to therapy, that's my therapy. Like, having close friends that I can be myself with,
Mhm.
and you know talk through what's going on, or like, you go grab a glass of wine or coffee with your girlfriend, and you unload the crazy stuff going on,
Yeah.
she unloads her crazy stuff,
Yeah.
and then you
I'm
leave
like,
and
I
you're
wanna hold
like,
your hand, Aja.
my stuff's not so bad. No, like,
Yeah, and you're like, it's really an amazing.
you leave with this weight
Right.
lifted that you didn't
Yeah.
even know was there.
I think it's that
And
human connection, right?
And also
Yeah.
just realizing that like everybody's walking around with stuff, and like it might
Yeah.
be in an elevated state, it might be in
Oh,
a latent state, but like everybody has, so it's sometimes it's just like you unload, they unload, maybe you don't even solve each other's problems, but it's just like the acknowledgement that like you have hard times too. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
this is
Let's go.
normal. We're all
Your time.
we're all
Yeah.
dealing with
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
baggage, and
Yeah.
everyone, we say it all the time. I'm like, we'll get off a call, and she'll be like, well, da da da, like, they're probably going through something.
Yeah.
Everyone's going through something.
Right?
Like, it's
Every
everyone
day.
is.
Yeah.
So I think that has gotten me through a lot. I'm also best friends with my mom. I talk to her 100 times a day. Every time I get in my car, I call her.
I love
I'm all the
that.
same way. She's like, so where are you driving? And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is my special time with you, mommy.
Yeah.
Oh my God, my mom will call me for everything. And like sometimes I like really can't talk. And I'm like, is it an emergency? And she'll be like, no, but like anyways. And I'm like, no, like I gotta go.
Eldest daughters, second daughters. I'm like, I'll call her all the time.
Yeah. 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 She's my best friend. Not in high school. We couldn't.
Yeah.
Same.
We're not friends in high school, but now we're best friends. So I think that relationship, I mean, that's girlfriends too, that relationships. She's my ride or die, has always been there for me. So I think that support system and having community is very important. And then, there were some things early on that I think maybe every young woman should have to do. And one of them's travel abroad or study abroad. I think that was informative. It's, Jewel kind of had a similar experience that changed her. I think everyone should have to be a waitress or work at a restaurant, server job at some point. Like,
It's
I
awful.
think but like,
At least for me. it was
Understand
so awful.
people.
and have a little patience.
Yeah.
Yes.
You learn
Yeah.
some of these things,
Yeah.
like if you work as a server. I think
Mhm.
everyone should have to do that. And early on, I also had to have a job where I was a cold caller. So,
Yeah.
that
They're
builds some.
uncomfortable.
Yeah. So there's those sort of things that I think help. And then I remember I had 2 back-to-back boyfriends that now looking back probably had Asperger's. Very smart guy. I mean, one was valedictorian at Dartmouth, and he's just like still a close friend, but just really smart. But yeah, Asperger's probably for sure. And what was interesting is through those relationships, like emotion didn't serve it. Like I'd cry and they'd be like,
Oh.
like because they didn't understand that, and that was not. They were very rational, and I think through those relationships, I learned how to just be more rational with and like understand my feelings and be able to verbalize them versus using crying or some of these. So I think that helped. And then one of the companies I worked at, I was the only female, and there were like 40 men. So I was like, emotion didn't really serve me there either. So I think through that, I just it almost I grew out of it in a little way. And it's not that I don't have emotion, I still feel, but it's those ways of showing it that I'm in managing it that I think I just learned different tools.
It's interesting because we've talked about this a lot, but I think God or the universe or whatever you believe gives you kind of the things that you need to build the tool, right?
Yeah.
Or address the weakness that's stopping you from your potential. So it's even it could be a boyfriend that doesn't really or a job or being around in a professional
a lot of
setting where it's like I got to work on this little thing, like
Lots of lessons.
God bless him and leave him.
So many lessons.
Yeah.
In that regard, I want to actually take your question back to Jewel because I would love to hear, something that you really struggled with as a teen that, and how you got through it.
I mean, I think just being able to find my authenticity, it was just really, really hard. And I got through it by being by myself and like really writing and expressing through my writing.
Did you start journaling when you were a teen?
I started journaling as a kid. I used to, in my childhood bedroom, inside of my closet was like a little hideout. I had to like get like a little ladder to climb up, and there was like a whole seating area with like blankets. I slept up there sometimes, and a counter. And so I started journaling as a child just to try to get my emotions out because
it just felt
they were so pent up. Yeah.
It's so funny. I just moved with my son back to my parents' house, and I found like a stack of journals, and I opened one up and it was like right in junior high, and I was reading through some of the stuff is like really like I thought it was racy. It was like, oh my God,
Sure
Adrian is so hot. but then there would be like things where I'd be like, today was really hard. And then I'd be like, mom and dad yelled at me and I like don't understand, or like I feel like a bad kid. And it like took me back because I'm like, oh my God, like
Yeah.
these in my own words, like I'm describing why things felt so difficult. And I don't think one of the things I hear now is like, oh, you seem like such an even keeled or like happy child or whatever. And I'm like, actually, there was like so much going on inside, which is why I asked, how did it present itself like as you felt like this discontentment in your body, like how it actually presented in the world. So,
I think it presented as ambitious
yeah.
because if I wasn't like really
Mhm.
in hibernation writing, I was doing gymnastics. I
Yeah.
was doing track and field. I was, swimming or dancing, or I was always in my body. So I think I presented as ambitious.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's just how everyone saw me. Like, oh, she just doesn't stop.
Yeah.
She just always wants to win and be the best and do this. But when I think back on it, I did that because I had to do that,
Right.
because there was no way for me to just not.
Well, and it also like is a way to like being active and busy and the best at things is if you're feeling like you want to get out of a situation or find a new, I felt that way about growing up in a small town. I was like, well, I just got to like really do things, because
Yeah.
that's going to be the way I kind of find a new setting for myself, or the best possible new setting when, clearly you're not feeling it where you are growing up.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really
So it can kind of
brave.
open doors.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, we always like to wrap out our interviews with the same question. I'd love for each of you to respond. What was a quality that you had as a young person, as a teenager, that maybe you didn't love at the time, but looking back, you really embrace now? It's a long question. I'm still refining it.
So, humor, but also acne. I think I remember when I came home crying one day because my skin was so bad, and all day I was self-conscious about it. I remember I would always look at every girl's skin like, oh, if I could change one thing, I just wish it was my skin. And my dad had bad acne when he was younger, so he understood. And I remember I was crying about it, and he goes, you'll get through this. It will humble you. And, looking back, I'm like, yeah, it did humble me, and it forced me to find other things, to be the funny one in the room, or you know, the kind one, usually the funny one.
But also to be able to relate, I mean, to your customer now and go through the journey of like everywhere that it's taken you kind of came from that problem of like, oh, acne, and then what's going on the inside and the gut. So it's like, that's the starting point for your customer with a problem, right? It's usually something they're unhappy with or uncomfortable with.
And
that.
And it runs so deep when we
Yeah.
have something that we're dealing with like that. It consumes us. When you meet someone and they can't sleep, it consumes them.
Yeah.
Trying to find a solution, or that they've tried everything, but they're just always bloated, or they can't drink dairy, or they can't eat a piece of bread, or whatever it is. It ends up being, this huge cloud that they carry all the time. And so, yeah, I mean, I agree.
I love it. What about you? What's your quality
The quality
that maybe you didn't like at the time? When you were a teenager, there's something where you were like, this thing about me, but now you're so glad you had from the beginning.
I don't know, guys. A quality that I didn't love. I guess probably because I was so guarded. Yeah.
I think too, I'm
I
choosing
know
for you.
Think about that.
You mentioned it too. I always say this, like Jewel has this way of always finding the best of the best, and to sometimes a fault or an expensive price tag. But it's like, you're like, oh, I'm gonna go get my ears pierced, or I'm gonna go get acupuncture or something like that, and Jewel will find the top best person in the world and then make an effort to go see that person. And so it's like that, I think, is one of your like this great quality you have is not having like you have the highest expectations for everything and everyone, but then you end up finding the best through that too. So that's I'm gonna answer it for you.
I guess, I mean, it sounds like that's something
Yeah.
though that's been around for right time, right? Like
Yeah.
not being able to identify, like, no, that's not for me.
That
What's for
small-
me is this specific thing, and I'm gonna wait until I find it, and
Yeah.
putting yourself.
That small
these
town
You know,
didn't have the best of the
something-
best.
Yeah.
They all lived in the
best isn't
city.
here. Europe has the
But
best.
something that I actually left out,
Yeah.
which is kind of a big piece of who I am, is my background in food. And so the whole reason we actually moved to Europe
Yeah.
is because my dad was a baker. He still is a baker.
Oh.
And he wanted to go and learn from the best of the best bakers in the world. So
There you
we
go.
landed.
So there you
Apple
go.
doesn't fall far.
And we were like, I don't know if you know anything about bakers, but we were like in Poulan's kitchen when I was like 13, like in the basement. He's to this day probably known as the best bread baker. Well, there was two of them. They were brothers, but as the best baker in the world. And when we came back from that, my dad opened up this bakery in, this tiny little town in the mountains, and it had like the copper ceiling.
Yeah.
Everything was
The
like beautiful
best.
handcrafted
Yeah.
wood. And there was a wall of artisan breads that like no one had ever seen in their life unless you had been to France or Germany
Yeah.
or something like that. And when I was with my friends, I was always even though I did have a really great friend group, I was always like disattached and baking something, and I did it to escape. And that was
Oh.
actually, even though I did go to school, I was actually going to go to fashion school because I was very, very creative. And also that comes through my food. But I ended up going to culinary school instead. And that was essentially what got me out of my small town and to this life that I now live.
I think that's so
someone
cool.
inherited. Yeah.
Right. But also to be able to see a parent, or sometimes it's a parent, sometimes it's a
Mhm.
teacher, sometimes it's a friend, whatever, but someone that can kind of show you, okay, like this is a way to pursue something. It's to seek out the best of the best and find it and change your setting, or even like you mentioned, the guy that diagnosed you, planting the seed that like, oh, by the way, a lot of people that have this and have this difficulty when they're young end up being like CEOs, CMOs, like
Yeah.
very successful business people. So like having that little seed planted somewhere, it sits in our minds and it grows into something, whether it's active or not. So
Mhm.
I know. Speaking of plant guys, Michael Pollan says that set and setting is everything for the experience. I think that can be applied to multiple different things, not just like substances, which he experiments with, because he's a plant. You probably know, like he's a big plant guy. So he experiments with mushrooms, but he specifically says like set and setting makes a huge difference to any experience. And I feel like that's something you guys have really emulated in both of your experiences and in your lives and in what you do now.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you guys.
So fun.
This
I
is
have no idea
really
what time it
fun.
is. We also didn't start our timer, and I'm like, I looked over and I'm like,
freaking out.
so I don't know what time it is, but that was really fun, you
Thank you
guys.
so much for
Yeah,
having us.
it's so fun to kind of see even like the looks you guys exchange and the little like things, because it's so I don't know.
It's endearing.
People are always
It's
like, don't go into business with your best friend or whatever. And I'm like, well, don't do it the wrong way, I guess. But I feel like when you can find the like qualities in somebody else do you guys have the experience? Because I totally feel this way with Kashia. Like we have a lot of fundamental values in common, but then like she has some skills that I entirely lack. You know what I mean? And I'm like,
vice versa.
she says that about me, which is less
No,
believable.
vice
But the complimentary where it's like, thank God that like sometimes when I go low, she goes high, or like that we just kind of like
Oh, we
puzzle
talk
piece each
about
other.
that all the time. I mean, I think it's just even the waves of life.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes I just feel so tapped out.
Yeah.
I'm like, been trying to come up with creative marketing email topics for 12 plus years. It's like sometimes I just creatively am tapped, like, or I feel burnt out, or I had a hard week or whatever. And I feel like when I'm down, she's up, or we can pick each other up, or vice versa. And it's like, It's so important. I think we even meet so many people that are solo founders that are always like, they always ask us 100 questions. Like, oh, you're so lucky.
Yeah.
You have a
It's
co-founder
so
and
hard to like with the chocolate company. I was solo, and it's hot. It's lonely. It's
Yeah.
hard, and like
Imagine.
then you have to like. I mean, you can still hire people to like bounce the
Yeah.
ideas, but it's
Right.
different than building. It's different
Mhm.
than sitting next to somebody every day and truly having the aligned vision and building that step by step together.
And that's our show. If you liked what you heard today, please like, subscribe to, follow, and share Meet Bridget with your circle. The best way to help our work here is to rate and review our podcast. We're listening and constantly working to build something helpful for you. Catch you next time.